You've encountered the typical advice repeatedly. Build emergency supplies, purchase purification equipment, learn ignition methods. But there's a deeper layer they're withholding. The most seasoned preppers protect their truly powerful methods with silence. What's the reason? Because in societal breakdown, specialized knowledge becomes more valuable than material wealth. Disclosing particular techniques could literally determine survival outcomes. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Experienced survivalists don't outlast others simply through superior gear ownership. They succeed because they understand principles that mainstream publications never reveal. Methodologies, frameworks, and protocols intentionally kept private. Once you grasp them, the reasons for their protection become crystal clear. We're exposing 5 preparedness approaches that veteran preppers seldom share publicly. These aren't sensational tricks or exaggerated myths. They're methodical, strategic frameworks that distinguish those who endure from those who deplete their resources. And that 5th approach? Even the most hardened veterans are reluctant to admit employing it, yet it may explain their continued existence when others have perished. Approach 1. The hidden hydration network. Let's speak plainly. Depending exclusively on purchased bottled supplies is fantasy. Individuals cram their spaces with bulk-bought pallets, assuming they've secured their future. But when infrastructure collapses, that's not security, it's a countdown timer. 48 hours, maybe 96, perhaps 7 days if fortune smiles, then emptiness. Purification tools? Absolutely functional until sources dry completely, streams become toxic, or water points transform into conflict zones where frantic individuals battle for every remaining ounce. That's when informed survivalists deploy their real advantage: hydration sources hidden in plain sight within ordinary environments. This isn't about costly equipment or secret intelligence. It's about recognizing assets already surrounding you, invisible to untrained eyes, and transforming them into critical sustenance. Internal residential reserves. Here's what nobody acknowledges. Your dwelling already contains significant liquid reserves. Hot water heating units aren't just utilities, they're containment vessels storing 30 through 80 gallons of drinkable liquid, enclosed and protected. Toilet cisterns, the upper compartment, never the basin, contain additional gallons requiring only basic treatment. Even your pipe network itself retains liquid after pressure disappears, trapped inside, awaiting anyone who knows recovery techniques. Most individuals ignore these completely, believing they're drained or compromised, but an informed survivalist sees them accurately. Emergency reserves integrated into infrastructure, available for extraction while others spiral into panic. Atmospheric moisture harvesting. And that's just the beginning. Water doesn't flow solely from faucets and bottles. Moisture capture systems can literally pull drinkable liquid from air itself. A tarp positioned over a dug depression or stretched above plant life can accumulate droplets for consumption while others experience dehydration. In moisture-rich climates, it's nearly inexhaustible. Do you own transportation? That steady drip underneath your vehicle after running climate control isn't a defect, it's H2O. Not delicious, not pure, but with treatment tablets or a compact filter, it's survivable liquid. Precipitation collectors, inflatable pools, even vessels left outside through the night. If you know how to shield and process them, you've created an entire independent hydration infrastructure while the unprepared beg for assistance. The non-disclosure principle. Here's the harsh reality nobody states openly. If you broadcast your hidden hydration reserves, you've already lost them. Some advocates preach communal generosity, but privately, they comprehend the situation. When social structure fractures, water surpasses gold in worth, and gold never sustained anyone for 72 hours. That's why veterans stay quiet. They'll let masses clash in commercial spaces over final packaged supplies while they remain composed and hydrated, drawing from reserves nobody realizes exist. the initial breakdown phase. Here's the brutal fact most won't even acknowledge. The opening collapse phase won't focus on nutrition, it'll focus on hydration. Dehydration terminates within 72 hours, quicker than hunger, quicker than infection, quicker than environmental exposure.
Imagine the pandemonium when municipal infrastructure fails, containers empty, and your adjacent residence still looks suspiciously vital. That's when violent groups emerge. If you're unprepared, your concealed hydration determines whether you persist or become a casualty. Because here's what officials don't want recognized. In every catastrophe, the ultimate survivors aren't those with the biggest armaments or the most goods. They're the individuals who understand how to discover water where nobody else considers searching. Because in a reality ruled by thirst, whoever manages the hidden sources doesn't just persist, they dominate. Practical execution framework. Start implementing now. Learn how to empty your heating tank. Purchase a fundamental testing apparatus and multiple purification tablets. Test a basic atmospheric capture setup. Install precipitation collectors discreetly. Build these capabilities while everyone else remains comfortable. Because when municipal infrastructure collapses, the unprepared will spiral. You won't. Consider alternate sources, residential pools with appropriate chemical treatment, ornamental water features, fish tanks, even liquid in preserved foods. Frozen water in cooling units becomes drinkable once melted. Know which vegetation naturally accumulates moisture in foliage. Learn to recognize safe extraction points in your particular environment. The mental component is equally critical. Rationing discipline distinguishes survivors from victims. Determine a personal daily baseline, usually half a gallon for bare survival, a full gallon for functional capacity. Monitor consumption. Establish a rotation protocol so stored liquid doesn't become stagnant. Validate your treatment methods currently, not during emergency conditions. Approach 2. The eternal nutrition base. Canned products and appealing boxed goods? They degrade within 12 months. Snacks and manufactured items turn worthless after half a year. Reality is, most crisis-purchased items are just delayed waste, products providing emotional reassurance on shelves but decomposing rapidly when supply networks break. Serious survivalists abandon that mindset completely. They don't consume space on temporary comforts. They build their reserves on what I call eternal nutrition, fundamentals that defy degradation dates and won't abandon you starving years later. The eternal storehouse. Eternal foods aren't impressive. They don't present well for social platforms, but they outlast panic-bought supplies by generations. Honey has been extracted from ancient burial sites, still amber, still consumable after millennia. White rice sealed oxygen-free in proper bags with moisture absorbers can sit undisturbed for 25 through 30 years and still prepare perfectly. Complete dried beans, wheat kernels, oats, corn, milk powder, sugar, vinegar, and sodium. These are the overlooked victors. Salt alone performs wonders. It flavors, preserves protein, and even sterilizes wounds. Milk powder can mean the distinction between a malnourished youngster and a thriving one. Freeze-dried vegetables can maintain nutrients for generations. Correctly sealed nut spreads retain their protein long after snack products deteriorate into powder. These aren't fashionable, they're foundational. And here's what newcomers miss. Eternal foods aren't simply calories, they're commerce. The scarcity economics. In a breakdown, your neighbor's frozen protein spoils within days without power. But the survivalist with 500 pounds of grains and legumes can nourish themselves for years or barter. A 20-pound container of rice in a starving community isn't just sustenance, it's influence, bargaining strength, and authority. That's why veteran survivalists don't display their inventories online. If rumors spread that your storage is abundant with grains and beans, you don't receive courteous callers. You get armed raiders who will confiscate everything.
Silence guarantees survival. The ethics intersection. But that privacy creates an ethical puzzle. Food is authority, and authority demands decisions. Some survivalists use their reserves to strengthen their communities, bartering fairly, distributing responsibly, and nourishing the defenseless. In doing so, they transform food into credibility, which is the bedrock for reconstructing community. Others militarize it, stockpiling, engineering dependency, exchanging food for obedience, or worse, for dominance. One route builds strength, the other cultivates tyranny. Which path you select depends on your principles, not your provisions. But don't fool yourself. The moment will come, and it will establish not only your identity, but the survival likelihood of everyone surrounding you. Storage excellence. Correct storage multiplies longevity dramatically. Utilize food-safe Mylar containers with oxygen eliminators.
Store in 5-gallon containers with secure lids. Maintain everything cool, moisture-free, and dark, preferably under 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Mark everything with contents and dates. Establish an inventory framework you can maintain without electricity. Comprehend caloric calculations. An average adult requires 1,200 to 2,000 calories daily for fundamental survival, additional for physical activity. Calculate your household's minimal requirements for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, then multiply it. Distribution becomes unavoidable in most survival circumstances. Diversify your proteins. Dried beans, lentils, split peas, and textured plant protein provide variation. Include fats, vegetable oil, coconut oil, and shortening, because fats supply concentrated calories and enhance flavor. Don't forget morale foods in smaller quantities. Instant coffee, tea, cocoa, seasonings. Mental state matters during prolonged crises. Rotation frameworks. Establish a first acquired, first consumed rotation. Use temporary tape and markers to date everything. Consume and replenish items approaching their suggested limits. This isn't just about preventing waste, it's about maintaining knowledge of your supplies. You need to understand how to prepare these foods, how your household responds to them, and what combinations function best. Practice currently. Dedicate 1 week per quarter to consuming exclusively from your eternal supplies. This exposes gaps in your planning, identifies items you dislike enough to avoid consuming even when hungry, and develops preparation skills for unfamiliar ingredients. The ultimate truth. Eternal foods aren't glamorous, but they're invincible. They're the quiet foundation of genuine preparedness. They won't generate social media likes. They certainly don't taste like luxury. But when hunger escalates, when the last manufactured snacks crumble, when refrigerators smell like decomposition and retail aisles resemble war zones, they're the distinction between existence and starvation, authority and weakness, survival and breakdown. The essential question: will you employ them to construct a community worth surviving for, or to survive isolated, surrounded by quiet and mistrust? The containers and buckets don't determine. You do. Approach 3. The silent capability system. Everyone posts images of firearms and debates specifications like they're accumulating collectibles. It's noisy, it's hostile, and it draws attention, which is exactly the issue. In an actual breakdown, noise becomes fatal. Gunfire broadcasts your position, attracts dangers both animal and human, and exhausts ammunition that cannot be replenished. Veterans comprehend better. The most powerful tools are the ones that don't appear threatening at all. The quiet philosophy. The silent capability system isn't just equipment, it's an entire perspective. At its core, the silent methodology prioritizes alternatives and invisibility. It values prevention over confrontation, favoring avoidance because dodging encounters is safer than winning them. It emphasizes sustainability over disposables, selecting items you can repair, reuse, and maintain rather than single-use solutions. Low visibility beats display. Staying unnoticed keeps you protected since visibility invites conflict.
And quiet capability, first aid, navigation, judgment, is the genuine force multiplier, far more valuable than loud demonstrations.
This is a stance, not a purchase. You're constantly building your list of nonviolent exits, redundancies, and low-risk responses so physical confrontation becomes a final option rather than the first response. Practical disciplines. There are practical behaviors that matter and don't violate legal or ethical boundaries. Noise discipline. Train yourself and your household to move and operate quietly when necessary. Soft footwear, quieter tool techniques, and routines that avoid unnecessary sounds during sensitive periods. Sensible concealment. Keep valuable equipment invisible. Rotate caches and avoid advertising preparedness supplies or armaments on social platforms because publicizing them is counterproductive. Redundancy and repairability. Favor tools, systems, and supplies you can fix or repurpose so you don't depend on external supply chains. Situational awareness. Observe routines around you. Notice unusual patterns and make a habit of scanning exits and potential hazards whenever you enter a new space. Consistent practice. Short, repeatable practice beats long, infrequent drills. A daily 5 to 10 minute skills routine, quick first aid review, map reading, or equipment check keeps competence sharp without becoming burdensome. Equipment philosophy. The gear approach focuses on dual-use items and blending into normal life rather than flashy armaments. Everyday carry tools genuinely useful for chores and maintenance. Medical supplies that handle common injuries and stabilize people until professional help arrives. Repair kits and multi-tools for fixing things.
Communication backups that let household members check in privately. Water and food resilience supplies that are storable and maintainable. The emphasis is not on blueprints for harm, but on utility, concealment, and legality. Home security without fortification. Hardening a residence using the silent approach focuses on reducing encounters rather than creating a fortress that draws attention. Progressive difficulty. Make access to your inner space progressively difficult so most threats stop short of reaching you. Sightline management. Arrange landscaping and lighting to provide clear sightlines so you can observe approaches without exposing yourself. Quiet alarm systems. Consider noise-minimizing alarm strategies that inform family members quietly. Phone alerts, secure messaging, or internal lights rather than blaring sirens that announce your position to everyone. Multiple exits. Know several exit paths and a few rendezvous points so household members can separate and regroup if needed. These are concepts for preventing conflict, not instructions for traps or weaponization. Information security. Communication discipline and information hygiene are crucial in a connected world where leaks travel fast. Prearranged signals. Use private signals, little phrases, routines, or status indicators that mean something only to your group. Minimize social sharing. Don't broadcast movements, caches, or preparedness on public forums. Offline plans. Maintain physical meeting points, hard copy lists of important numbers, and paper maps because they're quiet and resilient. Trust boundaries. Vet who you share details with and be cautious before bringing newcomers into tight community plans. Community multiplication. Community acts as a multiplier for the silent mindset. A lone person can accomplish much, but a small local group multiplies options. Skills-sharing circles, where members teach first aid, basic plumbing, gardening, or nonviolent conflict mediation. Specialization. Let people focus on specific areas, medical, mechanical, gardening, childcare, so resources and responsibilities can be traded and complemented. Low-profile mutual aid, quiet neighborhood watches, shared resources, and designated roles so help moves hand to hand without fanfare. Remember the moral compact. Agree in advance what behaviors are acceptable, prioritizing nonviolent solutions and refusing to weaponize the neighborhood. Community increases resilience, but raises ethical stakes because you're responsible for others' safety and the group's reputation. Legal and ethical boundaries. The silent approach can, if mishandled, slip into morally questionable or illegal territory. Know local laws. Understand what constitutes justified self-defense, what security devices are legal, and what actions could be criminal where you live. Maintain ethical clarity. Be honest with yourself about whether a plan is defensive or deliberately predatory, because survival shouldn't mean surrendering your moral compass. Avoid illegal measures. They're illegal in many places and disproportionately dangerous to innocents, first responders, and yourself. Be realistic about the consequences. Tactics that work in fiction often carry long-term legal and psychological costs in reality. Part of the silent discipline is refusing to cross those lines, because once you do, you and those you care about carry the consequences. Decision-making under pressure. One of the silent approach's advantages is that it widens the threshold for escalation. It buys you time to evaluate and choose a proportional response. Exit options, so you can prioritize retreat or negotiation. Alternatives such as community support, authorities, or non-lethal deterrence. If an encounter can be diffused or escaped, that's almost always the best outcome. Training and rehearsal make those judgment calls more likely to be correct when stress floods your brain. Psychological realities. Living quietly has psychological dimensions that matter. Secrecy, isolation, and the need for humility. Balance secrecy. Share only what people need to know, because excessive secrecy erodes neighborly bonds. Practice humility. Quiet competence is useful. Swagger is not. Avoid moral superiority. When your group makes defensive choices, have mechanisms to review decisions and correct course if ethics are slipping. Practical starting audit. If you want a short practical audit to begin, 1. Identify where you're loudest in daily life and reduce it. 2. Prioritize training in first aid, de-escalation, and repair. 3. Build repairable, reusable stores rather than flashy, perishable stockpiles. 4. Establish a small, trustworthy neighborhood network for mutual support. 5. Learn basic navigation and keep an offline plan. 6. Know your legal limits so you don't design systems that depend on breaking the law. The core truth.
The final brutal truth. Loud weapons make a public statement. Silent approaches keep you privately powerful. Privacy comes with responsibility. The quiet path lowers the odds you'll become a target and keeps options open when everything collapses. If you want control, invest in skills that increase options and reduce the need to fight. Survival is not a single tool or a display of aggression. It's the sum of small, quiet decisions that let you last through the hard days and keep your conscience intact when they pass. Approach 4. The Energy Independence Framework. The instant electrical networks fail, modern existence stops. No light, no refrigeration, no digital connectivity. The infrastructure that silently made life predictable vanishes, and individuals scramble. Candles and inexpensive batteries become a collective joke until they don't. They expire quickly, leave you in darkness, and create more complications than they resolve. Fuel-powered generators seem like an apparent solution, but they're loud, produce recognizable smells, and function like a beacon. We have capabilities. Sound and odor broadcast abundance the same way fireworks announce a festival. And in a breakdown, advertising your capabilities is a rapid path to becoming a target. The veteran's methodology. Veteran survivalists employ a different strategy entirely. They aim for quiet energy systems and behaviors that provide essential electricity without screaming for attention. That doesn't mean flashy, social media-worthy equipment. It means small, low-profile solutions that integrate into life without drama. Things you can conceal, maintain, and operate without drawing a crowd. It means thinking in terms of endurance and repairability rather than peak output. Setups that keep a few critical items running, a light, a communication device, a small refrigerator, and don't rely on constant supply chains. It also means energy discipline, routines that stretch available power through conservation, prioritization, and clever scheduling so limited electricity serves the most vital needs. The leverage dynamic. Here's the ugly, unavoidable truth. In a blackout, power becomes currency. The person who can illuminate a bulb, operate a fan, or charge a phone becomes a small bank. They're not just surviving, they control leverage. People will trade food, labor, security, and loyalty for a few hours of electricity. That dynamic reshapes communities overnight. It creates patrons and dependents, allies and extortionists. Some survivalists accept that reality and use it to build barter networks that keep everyone healthier. Others weaponize it, hoarding access to maximize their own safety and influence. Both paths are human responses to scarcity, one communal, one monopolistic, and both carry moral consequences. The secrecy trade. Because of that leverage, secrecy becomes part of the tradecraft. People who've quietly built reliable power systems don't broadcast them. Publicizing capability invites competitors, thieves, and opportunists. So you'll see lots of talk about self-reliance in public and very different behavior behind closed doors, guarded details, selective sharing, and sometimes deliberate misinformation to protect what they've built. That secrecy isn't always noble. It can enable monopolies and hoarding. But it's also a survival reflex when the alternative is being stripped of your advantage by people who don't respect boundaries. The moral spectrum. There's a moral spectrum here. At one end are cooperative approaches, shared microgrids, community charging schedules, barter systems that prioritize the vulnerable, and transparent rules so power stabilizes neighborhoods rather than destabilizing them. These approaches treat power as a commons to be managed, not a trophy to be hoarded. At the other end are coercive strategies, deliberate scarcity used to extract concessions, gated access, and threats that leverage dependence into control. Those choices corrode trust, invite retaliation, and can make communities more dangerous in the long run. Critical safety and legal considerations. Do not skip this section. I won't provide instructions for building, modifying, or hiding power systems in ways that could be illegal, unsafe, or help people evade law enforcement. Working with electricity can kill or start fires if done incorrectly. Always defer to licensed professionals and published safety standards. If you plan for resilience, prioritize non-technical, low-risk measures you can implement safely. Conservation techniques, safeguarding battery stores, learning safe generator operation from certified sources, and building agreements with neighbors that reduce conflict. Understand local laws about fuel storage, electrical work, and property rights. Doing the wrong thing for the sake of survival can get people hurt or prosecuted.
If you want resilient, ethical preparation, focus on options that increase choices rather than coercion. Learn energy-conserving habits. Understand which devices draw the most power. Practice living with less. Know which systems are truly essential versus merely convenient. Create fair sharing plans. Establish agreements with trusted neighbors before crises. Define what's shareable, what's private, and under what conditions help flows. Prioritize repairable gear. Choose equipment you can fix with basic tools and knowledge. Avoid dependence on specialized parts or proprietary systems. Invest in knowledge. Basic electrical safety, battery care, and legal operation. Think in terms of redundancy and its moral counterpart, redundancy of trust. The power consumption audit. Conduct the household power audit now. Identify which devices are essential for safety and health. Medical equipment, refrigeration for medications, communication devices. Then, identify which are comfort items you can sacrifice. Calculate minimum power requirements. A modern LED bulb uses 10 watts. A phone charger uses 5 to 10 watts. A small DC refrigerator uses 50 to 100 watts. Suddenly, maintaining essential functions doesn't require massive power generation. It requires discipline. Explore battery technology. Modern lithium batteries hold more power, weigh less, and last longer than old lead-acid batteries, but they're expensive and have specific charging requirements. Understand the trade-offs. Learn basic battery maintenance, proper charging cycles, temperature management, and storage techniques. Alternative power sources. Research legitimate, legal alternative power options. Solar panels can be mounted discreetly. Modern panels are more efficient than ever. Understand that cloudy climates reduce effectiveness. Learn about charge controllers and battery integration. Wind generation requires consistent wind patterns, often impractical in residential areas due to noise and zoning, but in rural settings with proper conditions can supplement other sources. Manual power. Hand crank generators, bicycle generators, and treadmill generators convert human effort into electricity. They're exhausting, but produce power without fuel or noise. Thermoelectric generators convert thermal differentials into electricity. Inefficient, but potentially useful in specific circumstances. Grid independence mindset. The goal isn't to replicate modern convenience, it's to maintain critical functions. Shift your thinking from, how do I power everything, to, what absolutely must stay powered, and what can I live without? Lighting. Use task lighting instead of illuminating entire rooms. One LED headlamp provides hands-free work light for hours on a single charge. Refrigeration. Prioritize items that truly need cold storage. Medication, certain foods. Many items we refrigerate out of habit can be stored safely at room temperature. Communication. A charged phone can last days if you're disciplined. Turn off background apps, reduce screen brightness, enable airplane mode when not actively using it. The community dimension. Power independence works better with community cooperation. Establish neighborhood agreements. Shared charging schedules. If one household has solar capacity, create a rotation for charging essential devices. Skills exchange. Someone with electrical knowledge can help others troubleshoot in exchange for other services. Collective purchasing. Pooling resources can make better equipment affordable. But maintain boundaries. Establish clear rules about what's shared and what's private. Document agreements. Have conflict resolution mechanisms. Long-term sustainability. Think beyond the first week or month. How do you maintain systems over months or years? Stockpile replacement parts, fuses, wiring, connectors. Learn basic repairs. Develop relationships with others who have complementary skills. Explore fuel logistics if using generators. Gasoline degrades, add stabilizers. Store safely according to local regulations. Understand that fuel will become increasingly scarce and valuable. Explore alternative fuels. Wood gasification systems can run generators on biomass. More complex, but potentially sustainable. Biodiesel production from waste oils. These require knowledge and equipment, but offer long-term independence. Final reality check. Power isn't just practical in a blackout, it's political. Controlling electricity controls decisions. Use that influence to stabilize and protect rather than dominate. Because the healthier the community you live in, the safer your own resources will be in the long run. A desperate neighborhood threatens everyone. A functional neighborhood protects everyone. The choice isn't just about technical capability, it's about what kind of person and what kind of community you want to be when everything else has fallen apart.
Approach 5. The disappearance protocol. If the other approaches are about surviving day to day, the disappearance protocol is about surviving the long game. It isn't a clever trick or a gadget, it's a lifestyle and a mindset. The most hardcore survivalists plan for moments when staying put means death, when mobs form, when law and order collapses, when your address becomes your sentence. So instead of broadcasting their readiness, they quietly remove themselves from the map, socially, economically, and physically, long before anyone notices. The footprint reduction. That means deliberately shrinking your footprint. Digital traces, minimal social media presence, no location tagging. Careful about what personal information is available online. Understanding that data aggregators compile comprehensive profiles from seemingly innocent sources. Plausible routines. Establishing patterns that don't attract attention. Not suddenly changing behavior in ways that raise questions. Maintaining normalcy while quietly building capabilities. Modest visible assets. Not displaying wealth or resources. Driving average vehicles. Living in average homes. Avoiding the appearance of either poverty or prosperity that might attract attention. Contingency plans. Having the ability to leave cleanly if staying becomes more dangerous than going. Knowing where you'd go, how you'd get there, and what you'd take. The moral rot. The controversy isn't in vanishing itself, it's in who gets to vanish and who gets left behind. Here's the moral complexity at the heart of this strategy. When a survivalist disappears, leaving behind plausible explanations and a calm neighborhood persona, they're not just protecting themselves, they're deliberately choosing who will be left to fend for what remains. That choice can look like betrayal to neighbors who trusted them, and for some it is exactly that. Cold calculation, survival for me, chaos for you. The decision to vanish involves ethical trade-offs. Prioritize your bloodline or your block. Protect your children at the cost of abandoning mutual aid networks. Survivalists who choose disappearance answer that question long before sirens ever sound, and not everyone will accept the answer. The personal cost. Make no mistake, vanishing isn't purely romantic. It requires cutting ties, managing plausible stories, and being willing to accept social exile. Many veterans admit the cost in private: lost friendships, nagging guilt, and the loneliness of being the one who walked away. There are also practical trade-offs. You trade community support that could be life-saving for the safety anonymity can offer. That tension is where the real drama lives. Do you help your street or save your family? The vanishing protocol forces those decisions into the open and makes you live with them forever. The weaponization potential. And here's the part nobody discusses publicly. The vanishing protocol can be weaponized. It's not difficult to imagine scenarios where secretive survivalist networks use vanishing tactics to control resources, manipulate markets, or bargain for safety. That's why some critics accuse prepping of birthing a modern survivalist aristocracy. A small class insulated from collapse, while the rest scramble for scraps. Still, there's a quieter side most headlines miss. For many, the choice to melt away is fundamentally protective, not predatory. Protecting children from violence, escaping persecution, avoiding conscription and violent breakdowns, creating safe corridors for vulnerable people. The skill set behind a vanishing protocol, operational security, plausible deniability, vetted escape routes can also be used for good, keeping vulnerable people out of harm's way, creating safe passages, or buying time for people to rebuild. Those humane uses are why some practitioners guard the methods, reveal them, and you empower both saviors and abusers. Critical legal boundaries. Do not skip this section. I won't provide instructions for committing crimes, forging documents, building illegal hideouts, or evading lawful authorities. Those activities are dangerous and illegal in many places. If you're considering drastic measures, prioritize legal and ethical options first. Plan legal relocation. Keep emergency funds accessible. Document important papers safely. Discuss contingency plans with trusted people. Understand the legal consequences of leaving property, of abandoning dependents, and of any actions that might break the law in your jurisdiction. Practical preparation elements.
Document security. Keep important documents, identification, deeds, insurance policies, medical records, in secure, accessible locations. Have both digital and physical copies. Know where they are and how to access them quickly. Financial mobility. Maintain some funds outside traditional banking systems, not because banks are evil, but because electronic systems can fail or be shut down. Have enough physical currency to handle immediate expenses during relocation. Skills inventory. Know what you can do that has value anywhere. Medical knowledge, mechanical skills, construction experience, agricultural knowledge. These are portable assets that don't require luggage. Network awareness. Understand who in your extended circle might be resources in different locations, not as people to exploit, but as potential mutual support. Relationships are portable wealth. The psychological preparation. Vanishing requires psychological preparation most people don't consider. Attachment flexibility, the ability to leave places and things behind. Not callousness, but healthy detachment from material possessions and specific locations. Identity resilience. Understanding that your identity isn't tied to your address, your job, or your social circle. You are you regardless of external circumstances. Decision confidence. The ability to make hard choices quickly when necessary. Indecision during crisis is often more dangerous than imperfect action. Emotional endurance. The capacity to carry guilt, loss, and loneliness without being paralyzed by them. The communication challenge. If you maintain any vanishing capability, you face a communication challenge. Who needs to know and how much? Complete transparency reduces operational security but maintains trust and relationships. Complete secrecy maximizes security but damages relationships and can make you appear paranoid or unstable. Selective disclosure, the middle path. Sharing enough so trusted people understand you have plans, but not so much that your options are compromised. There's no perfect answer. It depends on your specific relationships, your risk assessment, and your values. Alternative perspectives. Some experienced survivalists reject the vanishing protocol entirely. They argue that community resilience beats individual flight. A strong, prepared community provides better long-term survival odds than solo escape. Psychological sustainability. Living in permanent operational security mode damages mental health and relationships. Moral clarity. Staying and helping is ethically superior to abandoning neighbors, even if it's riskier. These aren't wrong perspectives. They represent different value systems and different risk assessments. Neither approach is objectively correct. They serve different priorities. The character question. If you're drawn to the vanishing protocol, weigh the moral cost against the practical benefit and remember the human toll. You may survive, but at what price to the life and relationships you once had? What kind of person do you become when you live in permanent escape mode? What kind of parent or friend or neighbor can you be when half your mind is always calculating exit strategies? These aren't rhetorical questions. They're real psychological consequences that affect real people who've walked this path. Integration with other strategies. The vanishing protocol doesn't replace the other 4 strategies. It